Hi. In this lecture, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the biases in children's books, specifically the biases against females. So here we go. My favorite quote, how the tale is told, right? And how the tale is told in children's books is especially important when girls are not there, when females are not there, or they're there, but they're not doing anything. So when we look at it that way, the story is clearly told. Love that quote. Lots of studies have been done on representation of females in children's books. Unfortunately, there hasn't been a ton of them very recently. And I dug and dug and dug, and I still have some I still have some old statistics here, but I'm going to go with it and hope that I can update this in other ways. So there's been, again, lots of studies, and what we have seen throughout these studies, even the early ones and the more current ones, is that there are fewer girls in children's books than boys. Big surprise? Not really. If you pick up books consistently like I do, you're not surprised. And if you recall some of the books that you have read or looked at throughout your life, you're probably not surprised either. So again, more boys, and most importantly, more boys have the good stories, the exciting stories. They're the protagonists. They're the leaders. They're doing something. A lot of times, the girls, the females, not doing so much. It starts way back with fairy tales, right? So I like this. Gendered expectation patterns are well learned from the time children are very young. So nursery rhymes are a really big deal still for children. Not quite as used frequently in classroom settings, but still so much there. And so we know about Jack and Jill, right? Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Jack fell down and broke his crown, his head. And Jill came tumbling after. So from the very time children are young, they learn that Jill is a follower. And she didn't have to follow, right? Don't follow Jack down that hill. You didn't have to fall just because he fell. I'm kind of teasing about it, but if you look at nursery rhymes, you're going to see some very specific messages really diminishing females. Check it out. So the crazy, awful part about this, if we see the influence of children's books on children, that we realize that it doesn't take too long for children to become kind of hardwired into what they think girls do and what they think boys do. And unfortunately for girls, the limits are there in terms of what they think their possibilities or their capabilities are. And a really important part of what we're learning through these children's books is learned through language. Certainly picture books tell us big stories. You don't need any words to see some of the undervaluing of females in picture books. But language does that for sure, really locks in some of those stereotypes. And so then, of course, language locks in the stereotypes word-wise and picture-wise in children's books. And just some examples. Supergirl, that is not a girl. Check it out. That's not a girl. Why? Not Superwoman. I mean, you might think that's silly, but again, that slightly parsing away. Remember, slipping, becoming invisible. The mirrors crack and slipping through it. That's what happens a lot to females in stories. So we diminish it by not giving them the power that should be theirs. Supergirl, Superwoman, a little more power, right? So that is a word that needs to be gone. And let's look at dogs, animals. They're always he's, right? They're always he's. Always, always he's. Always. Let's look at things that we animate by naming them. Mr. Mountain, Mr. Everything. So always kind of male, influences there. And I'm not saying they shouldn't be there sometimes, but not all the time. Look at sometimes how we still label different occupations, fireman instead of firefighter, right? And it means something. It really means something. This is kind of an older story. Several years ago, probably like a decade ago, when I was in a preschool room, and some firefighters came. So exciting! All they're not costumes, they're uniforms, and they're all the equipment, and so one of the firefighters was explaining all of it, and she happened to be a female firefighter, and she kept referring to herself as a fireman, and this little girl just started crying about it, like she was confused. So these things matter. This is an excellent short video that's going to be in your video links. Check it out, because again, what we label things and how we gender things really matters, and occupations and all over the place, right? So that's a really telling one. I really recommend it. Just some examples of labels, and I'm just throwing some of these out. So comedian, you notice there's two N's. So when it's a female comedian, we put those two N's in there. When it's a male, we use the real word with just one N. But can't we just do it like this? Can't you just say female comedian or a male comedian if you need to differentiate? Chairman, everyone's pretty familiar now that we're doing some better things with that. Just say chair. You can say chairperson, but I'm lazy. I'm just going to say chair. Mankind, we've got that down a little bit, right? Humankind, humanity. Actress, this one bugs the heck out of me, and you're all going to think I'm crazy. But again, we're diminishing. Actress is a diminutive word of actor. Actor. When you put the s in there, you undervalue it. And I really believe that is true. So how about just actor? And if you, again, need to differentiate, just say female or male. I mean, come on. Waitress we're kind of getting out of favor with, which that's good, because then there's that word again, right? Diminishes waiter to just a little meaningless waitress. So we're pretty good on that one, right? Food server, not too hard to do. Fisherman, that was a tough one for me. And so if you think about it, can you think of a gender-neutral title for fisherman? Okay, did you think of one? I couldn't come up with one, but you could say angler or you could say fisher. Now, I know that sounds weird, fisher, but we get used to stuff. Words change throughout our world, right? And so the last one, male prostitute. So so here it's kind of a reverse of like actor. So if you say male prostitute, then it's a male prostitute. But if you just say prostitute, what's it got to be in your head? It's going to be a female prostitute. These things can change, and we need to help change them so that we value these occupations or whatever, that we value the ability for all people to be reflected under one title. We don't need to do all this stuff. Crazy. This one drives me crazy. Freshman. So again, not everyone that goes to college or high school, the first year of their college or high school, not all of them are male. And again, these things matter. Words matter. So what's wrong with just doing first year? So when we're looking at the different stereotypes and words used in children's books, we're looking at a lot of ways that we can change this, and they're not so hard. I mean, it takes a while, right? But it isn't so hard. There's some words out of favor that you no longer use. Come on. So more updating of the research in children's literature is that, we continued through the 70s, which is a million years ago, I know, and looked at different children's books and the representation. And it's just it was really bad then. I'm not even talking about different ethnicities and different cultures and races and sociocultures, all that kind of stuff that we'll be talking about. I'm not even talking about reflecting them. I'm just going to your basic male and female kind of representation. So still not so great for females. And then 80s, again, still not so great for females. Just like we do sometimes with picture books, we think, oh, these are really diverse. Look at, there's all sorts of different colors of children on them. And look, there's females and males. But then open the book or turn the pages. And who's doing all the cool stuff? It's the dominant culture person typically who's doing the cool stuff, and that would be a white male. These things are improving, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't have white males in stories doing the good stuff. I'm saying that we need to make sure that we're reflecting, that we're representing all of our culture, all of our society, right? That's what the readings have been about, and it's a really important thing. Children pick up on this stuff. And again, remember, children already by the ages of 3 to 5 already are racist and sexist. Sad, but true. We can change that with good children's books. Later study, 2006. We're getting better. We're improving, right? And then I had to just add some figures to this. So update to 2020. Oh, this is sad. It's not so good, right? So in our update, 4 female main people of color characters. So it's not great. Not great. Not great. Let's keep. Okay, I'll talk about that later. So this is a fabulous representation reflection of children's books out there in the world, in libraries and bookstores. And it's a video that is well worth watching. It's short. Get the stats. Watch it here. In your canvas, I mean. Again, so when I was saying that when we're looking at children's books and all the cool stuff the boys are doing, the males are doing, right? So there's I like this quote that if you flip through a bunch of books, you'd kind of have the idea that here's what happens in the world, right? Men fix things. And animals are mostly male, or, they're nothing, but they're mostly male. And in picture books, women don't really have jobs, right? Oh, they have the jobs of cooking and serving food, but guess what? They're not really eating the food very much. It's like they're serving the food, and all the dads, all the males make the decisions, and most of the girls have dolls. So that is still a reflection that is not back in the 1970s or the 1980s of the 206. It's still here. It's here, and it's here. Very popular book. David Shannon, he writes interesting, fun books, and oh my gosh, he can illustrate them. They're so fun. But the deal is, a lot of his books are doing exactly what I just was talking about. Reflecting females in a stereotypical way, a negative way, a less than way, or not at all way, which still is a negative way. And so stop all that yelling, shouted the man's wife. She doesn't even get a name. She doesn't get a name. Oh, yeah, her name is the man's wife, right? Doing stereotypical things, big mouth wide open. Interesting book. Did a little thing on it. There's I think, 10 main males and 3 females. Beautiful illustrations. And all the females have their mouth wide open, either yelling or little girl crying. So, not good. Not okay. A fabulous book of his, and I'm not only tromping on him because I love his illustrations, I love his intent, but there's a book, Duck on a Bike. Love this. But so we even gender and diminish animals. So if we're going to title animals, again, mostly they're he, but this is interesting in this book, Duck on a Bike. So there's about 12 animals in it, 12 animals, and then they're he's, and then there's a couple she's, and guess what the she's are doing? Well, laying around, worrying. So then Duck rode past Cat. Hello, Cat, said Duck. Meow, said Cat, but what she thought was, I wouldn't waste my time riding a bike. So Duck's learning how to ride a bike. Of course, he's a he. And the female animals are just flipped out about it. There's only about 3 of them. Well, there's 2 chickens, so we'll say 4. And they're just the cat, who cares? Or the sheep, oh, watch out, he's going to hurt himself if he's not careful. So listen, meek old female sheep who would never be as bold as to get on a bike. And then there's 2 chickens just squawking, watch where you're going. I'm not exaggerating, actually, because I'm a preschool teacher and I read a lot of books to kids, and I'm not exaggerating. That's what's happening in children's books still, even though they're improving, even though we're getting more female representation, we are. But when we're even looking at animals, we still let's gender them too. We can't even keep them neutral. What the heck, right? What the heck? As I said, dogs always referred to as he, right? Always got to correct it. And I think it's important. We can't have the default be he, because that excludes half, well, more than half of the world's population, right? And there's an easy remedy when we're looking at referring to animals, and we can do it. Too bad we can't do it for people. People that, gender neutral pronouns we're getting there, but for animals we can. You can say it, and you're right. And who doesn't want to be right? Kids want to be right too. Just say it. I'm doing it all the time, pounding that into kids, and they're always coming back with all the he's because that's what our world does. I love this quote, and because I think maybe some of you think I'm making a big deal of it, and maybe I am, but I'm not saying that people who use you guys have bad intentions, but think of the consequences. All those man words said many times a day by millions of people every day, cumulatively reinforcing the message that men and boys are the standard and that women and girls should be subsumed by the male character. Buried, that's actually what that word means, like buried, like less than, like an offshoot. So look at this. Again, great author and illustrator. And now you're probably knowing where I'm going, is what would you rather be? In this book, we're looking at two kids on a bike. That was the duck. Two kids on a skateboard. And so I think there's something wrong with this. So if you look at it, you see the boy's in the front and the girl is in the back holding on to the boy. Hold on to the skateboard. You can hold on to the skateboard. And am I saying this is like, X these kind of books out? No, but if this is what's always reflected, typically reflected, 88.99% reflected that the boys are the leaders and the girls need to hang on tight. That's what's wrong. And that is happening in a ton of children's books, even with new things going on. And of course, that everybody's white. That's another story we'll dip into. And again, what's a girl's book and what's a boy's book? So a quick incident in an article that I'm not sure that I have it in Canvas this course, but these kids were kindergartners and they were in school and they got to go to the school library for the very first time and check out a book. How fabulous is that, right? How fabulous is that? The idea that they get to take home a book, some of them for the first time ever, that they get to have for a while and read. So the incident happened that all the kids got their books. It's just so exciting, getting in line to go back to class. And overheard is a couple of boys saying to another boy, "You can't check that book out. That's a girl's book." It was Beauty and the Beast, the Walt Disney version. And just the shame and embarrassment and shame is the same, right? The horror on this kid's face that he goes back and grabs another book. Oh my gosh. So just segregating books into certain categories, what we know what that means, besides the awfulness of it, is that the access to beautiful stories for everybody, come on. And the idea that princesses are only for girls, come on. Another YouTube, look at this video in there about our princess boy. Quite interesting. Because boys like colors and sparkles, and they want to be hanging out with all that stuff, but books show them that's not okay. And then we can just get into the whole aspect of like, yeah, if you like princesses and you're a princess boy, you're in big trouble. Because girls associate with that stuff. And we raise boys to not be girls because girls are less than. Activities that are associated with girls aren't nearly as important or as interesting as boys' activities. Come on now. We know that's the message out there still. And it's still in a lot of children's books. Too many children's books, and it's not countered by books that are packed with adventurous girls doing adventurous things. The books are out there. They're getting out there, right? But the still popular books, the books still used in many classrooms, the books that are pulled out and checked out of libraries are those still mainstream dominant culture ideas of what is exciting and wonderful. And it usually revolves around our dominant culture of white male, a white boy. It still does. Even though things are improving, still does. So we need to get going. And we have gotten going, and we got to get going more on representing all of our genders and our ethnicities and our abilities, all that stuff in children's books. And that's what this class is totally about, and that's why I love this class. We need to fold back in, well, not even fold back in because they weren't really there. We need to add and center girls in children's books, right? So how can we help counter sexist and racist messages? I'm going to say this all the time in these lectures. Change the message. Ta-da! You're going to see this every time too. Quality multicultural. I'll say quality diverse literature provides an opportunity for all children to see themselves in books, fosters a positive self-esteem, and cultivates respect and empathy and love for other people. And those books are out there. So let's get them into the hands of all kids and parents and teachers. We got to do it. It's getting better, and you need to grab those books and share them with everyone, not just girls, right? I love this book. This is Sadie. As things stand in our storytelling culture, the vast majority of stories that we admire, talk about, give prizes to, throw money at, and adapt into movies are by guys about guys doing guy stuff. This means that girls get a lot of practice stepping into the shoes of male main characters, but boys have fewer chances to do the same for girls. So again, when I talk about all these biases, it's a bum rap for girls, but it's a bum rap for boys too. We need to reflect and represent everybody in children's books. Right? Thanks.